I might just have an incredible amount of forehead. I just cannot believe how much there is of this bad boy.
Welcome to Book Club.
Except instead of books, it's games.
Oh, and instead of a club, there's us two.
But the rest of the idea is 100% the same.
As every fortnight, we play one game solidly.
Then come here to talk about it.
And we want you to do the same.
All the games are retro.
Most of them are SEGA.
Some of them we've never played.
Or, we've just forgotten we've played them.
Because we're old.
Because we're old. Because we're old.
Because we're old.
The Book Club has one central theme.
We play retro games for their quality.
Games that deserve to still be played.
There are some bonus old man memories to be had. You don't need nostalgia if the game is awesome.
We're going to prove it.
In the Book Club.
Hello, welcome to Book Club. Happy New Year! Happy New Year to you! Happy New Year to you! And you!
Oh,
and all
happy
of
New
you.
Year to you, sir. Hope you had a good one. Whatever happened, whatever hijinks you got up to.
Oh, there was some hijinks. There was some serious hijinks. Let me tell you, there was a bed, there was an early night. I was sleeping, baby. It was so good.
Hot taste.
I actually just thought you just went hot like that, and I was like, "It's a strange territory we've got into."
Quickly moved into the uncomfortable kind of thing.
In fact, just as a sign of how I do value going to bed on time, just as we started, my phone and my watch started beeping and ringing at me to tell me to go to bed. So one
really?
shows you how late we record these.
It's old man o'clock.
Yeah. But, being the new year, what better way to ring in the new year than with new era, new energy? See what I did there? You're about to. Let me explain in case anyone didn't get it. Because the next run of games, sort of by happenstance, sort of by this is about as designy as we get in the random planning that goes into this. But we're going to do a run of games which are going to pick up a few of the titles from Sega's release, which now seems about as retro as the games themselves, since they haven't released any of them yet. So obviously today we are starting with, I can't bring myself to say it, even though we've established everyone knows what the game is. I still need to hand it over to you. Today we are starting with
Props at the ready.
Oh yeah, let me get mine.
Street of Rage. I think between us, you got a version right there, haven't you?
Let me get mine out.
Just while you faff and get it, I was to bring in this one.
There's my bad boy. So this is, so I have the game here. Weirdly, I don't have the, I'll just show you this as well. I also got unboxed, but at least I got the Streets of Rage 2 on GameCube as well. Which,
check the price on that bad boy.
Yeah.
I'm sure that goes for a lot these days.
Well,
know.
It's even signed by Ali B, who I presume is Ali Bongo.
Ah.
But,
the famous.
Yeah. When we said we were old men, I guarantee you, even I only vaguely know who Ali Bongo is. I think he's from the 1950s. So
really?
That was a really niche half joke. Yeah, unfortunately, I'll show you this as well. The other thing I found when I was getting those out was a copy of this. So throw it that way.
Dude. You're trying to do to me here. We're trying to pick things up a bit.
Sorry. So, no, be kind. Right, but so obviously Streets of Rage today, but we will go into some of the other gems. So we've got Jet Set Radio Future coming up. We've got Golden Axe coming up. We've got Crazy Taxi coming up. We've got Revenge of Shinobi coming up. It's going to be a beautiful year.
God.
I know.
That is going to, wow, what a lineup.
I know.
That is hype.
And I mean, it's fair to describe the way we pick games for the book club as random. And we probably stumbled across a couple of those and we're like, oh, look, they're on that list. So this is about as structured as we get. But they're just such good games. Fair play. I mean, you can see why they picked them, but fair play. Anyway, let's dive in and talk this beautiful game. Today is Streets of Rage. And I think we got loads to cover. So we obviously talk a bit about when it was released and what was around at the time, bit of setting the scene of other beat 'em ups and where it fits into that genre of game. We'll have a bit of our own kind of random chat, I'm sure. Sorry,
plenty of that. I would
already
imagine.
thinking that there'll be some abuse in there. I won't tip you off as to why. Talk about the game itself, like things that we love, things that like irked us maybe. We'll talk a bit Streets of Rage 2. We'll kind of like hold them up against each other, because although we're not talking Streets of Rage 2 today, you just cannot help but anytime you get a chance to talk about that. The devs and who made this game, and obviously again like looking a little bit to Ancient and the second game as well, and sort of making some comparisons. We'll talk what else they did, that sort of thing, and we're not going to start with this, and I can't believe we're not going to start with it, but we will obviously talk soundtrack as well, because
you can't leave that out with the Streets of Rage game.
I know.
I mean, if there's one thing people know from these games, it's that soundtrack. So
it is making me want to start with it, but if I do that, then I probably just won't stop talking about it. Save that bad boy.
Save it.
I guess the place to start.
Leave it,
son. I just remembering just before we started our attempts at accents, and I'm thinking, let's not do it. Ixnay on the accent.
Wide berth. Let's move on.
Probably the place to start would be where the game started. So, like, released into what was probably a pretty nascent scene. You know, there were other side scrollers about. One in particular. I mean, set us the scene. Tell us where this bad boy landed and what it was up against.
Well, I suppose in a way, I mean, you can follow it on from what we were saying in our Master of Darkness video, which is quite a few videos back now by the time this comes out. But it was Sega kind of basically looking to fill in a few gaps in their release schedule with certain types of games. So, like as we said in the Master of Darkness video, they were after a Castlevania style game, and that was the game they put together basically to fill that void. And much with Streets of Rage, they were kind of looking to fill a void because they didn't have Final Fight, which had been sewed up by Nintendo. So, I mean, obviously it started out in the arcade, and then Nintendo had a very close relationship with Capcom, and they basically sewn up the rights to, I mean, obviously there was not just one version of Final Fight, the original game on the Super Nintendo. There was Final Fight the original, and then Final Fight Guy because of the omission of him from the original game. But they also have Final Fight 2, Final Fight 3, etc. So Sega were looking to basically hit back, and the way they did that was basically getting a bunch of fellows together to start making Streets of Rage. And so that's where... That's where we are
it's just such a distortion to see it now, picturing like the Sega HQ. Hello, chaps. Should we get some fellows together and make ourselves a jolly good beat 'em up? Maybe that's how it went down. I don't know.
It's funny how we always end up with that, like, English gentleman style kind of thing.
Listen, all I'm going to say is it's better than me doing a really bad Japanese accent, because that would undoubtedly make me sound like incredibly insulting to a whole nation of people.
Dude, we get pulled off of the YouTube for sure.
But I mean,
it's bad enough that we get away with trying to pronounce the names. So.
Yeah, sorry, Japan and all Japanese. I mean, the Final Fight is the one, isn't it? You know, obviously there were others around, but Final Fight is the one, and it's that Capcom thing again. You know, it's like, I think Capcom, like we mentioned before, like sewn up, and so many games like behind a wall. I mean, they also had, like, Nintendo had other developers sewn up as well, but I guess like Capcom, Konami, a couple of big names were the real like pain of this, and Final Fight and Capcom, yeah, that's a big miss. And so you can see why they went after it. And unlike what we were saying with Sims and Master of Darkness, they didn't push off their, like, I don't want to call this one a knockoff, but they didn't push off their versions of things onto the 8-bits. I mean, they put this onto their like prize console, onto the one they were like trying to push and launch. So, you know, this was maybe them actually trying to push out and, like, you know, strike out.
Yeah, I mean, like Streets of Rage, like, I mean, Final Fight on the SNES was such a kind of, I mean, I know that it has its fans and stuff like that, but there was so much missing. There was like, was there 2 levels missing, stuff like that? But like most importantly, the 2-player mode. It was just like, You know what I mean? That was such an integral part of this kind of scrolling beating 'em up kind of thing, and
Yeah,
for that just
yeah,
to
yeah.
be gone from the SNES version, it's just like, man, it's I wouldn't say it defeats the object, but it's like such a huge omission that it really hurts the game.
Well, I mean, we'll talk about it a bit on this one in more depth, but we have been playing it, but only been able to play it one player.
Yeah.
Playing Streets of Rage, and you do feel it. I mean, back in the day,
Yeah.
on Streets of Rage 2, admittedly, but we only really played that 2-player, and
Yeah.
we've been talking about it on Twitter and stuff, and like generally the memories you get from people, it is all about the 2-player. This is who me and my mate played. This is who I play, and that guy played. It's really part of it.
It's a 2-player game.
Yeah.
I mean, even like it's literally so integral to the game as well. Like when you get to the ending and you both can make choices and all that sort of stuff. Like, and when you play it like just one player, it's like literally just plays out one way. Really.
Yeah.
It's like, either you join him and then like, what does he do? Chuck you back to level 6 or something like that, or you don't, and then you fight the end boss, and like that's it. But there's so many kind of variants. Like when you get there with the 2-player, like with in 2-player mode with a friend in tow, and you can just do your own thing and then have those consequences.
It is like the devs really kind of were playing on it or riffing on it, because they put in loads of stuff. The 2-player combo attacks you can do, like hold your mate and get into the kicking out stuff, and
the kicking out.
And I think they're probably just trying to push the game, make it better, but were they kind of riffing on the fact, we've got this and you don't, and all that stuff? Don't know, but it's often inspired Sega to greatness. Sometimes they led in the battles between them and other development houses and stuff, and sometimes they followed, but it's certainly the competition has always worked for them. Like having to fight against something has brought out the best in them, and this really did launch something great. And but
I mean, really, I mean, people think it like eclipses Final Fight, like, and as big as that game is, like, I would agree. People are like, yeah, Final Fight's really cool, and then someone chips in, but Streets of Rage was better, and everyone's like, yeah, it was better. Yeah, and it is.
I mean,
I gotta say it.
I'm consciously making this comment. You've got to remember, Streets of Rage 2 obviously comes in before our memories kick in and stuff, but Streets of Rage is the franchise that is on people's minds when you talk about this genre of games. It is actually. People love Final Fight, and there's huge respect for it, but actually Streets of Rage is the one, I would say. It's like,
it is, without question. And I mean, like when people refer to this genre and they're kind of like a bit more casual, they do like specifically Streets of Rage 2, don't they? They kind of talk about,
I mean, in truth, it's not Streets of Rage which has kind of given it such historical weight. It's Streets of Rage 2. I do see that, but but Streets of Rage obviously is the one that set the template and got the franchise going, and has all the other bits which we'll get into. But but it wasn't just Final Fight, so we were doing a bit. It's worth mentioning some of the other stuff that was around, because like beat 'em up as a genre, like, or side scrolling or belt scrolling, like beat 'em ups like this had
this
been
newfangled term that you've come out with. It's, like,
it's funny
belt
because
scrolling.
It's another one of those where, like, when you get on the internet, you're like, oh, people have been calling it that for the past 30 years, and it's like, okay,
I missed that one.
I missed that one too. We just always call it a beat 'em up or a side scrolling
beat 'em up. Yeah.
But there were others, but this is probably around where the boom was happening, right? So what have you got? I'm going to look down because I got a few. So you get Golden Axe 2, 91, Golden Axe a couple of years earlier, Double Dragon, a few games had come out by this point. Alien Storm, Battletoads didn't come out on the Mega Drive till later, but it had been out on the NES and arcade. Would it be? I don't remember playing it if it did.
Battletoads, I don't remember on the arcade.
Maybe just NES then, don't know. And Double Dragon, I mentioned, and Turtles had at least one game at this point. I think it had one on the SNES, and then it got the Mega Drive one. Not by this point, sorry, a little bit later. But that 91, 92 era seems to be where you see that real like push. And it's fair to say Streets of Rage was a catalyst in that, and so had Final Fight been. But there was plenty of others around. And I guess the fact that how clearly this game and then its sequel stood out. That's it. That
Yeah,
is
without question.
proof enough, right?
Yeah. There was even I don't know what year it came out, but remember we was into Sailor Moon for a while.
Yeah.
There's a scrolling beat 'em up Sailor Moon game. It's like, I think it's level 2. It has the elevator stage where you kind of, just like level 7 in Streets of Rage and stuff like that. But you know what? I really like it. And actually, there's a Super Nintendo version, but it's not the same game. And I think I actually own the cartridge of that. It only came out in Japan. Like, we didn't get it out over here. But you know what? They were decent.
The thing is, now you say it, you think it's surprising that you didn't get more like IPs just like parachuted into this genre, because it's so adaptable. Like, all those hacks you show me at Streets of Rage 2, and where they've just changed out the characters, and then obviously the developers themselves would just play around and introduce mods of characters, whatever. It's so easy to do. Like, I don't want to underplay the making of a game as how hard that is, but it's such an easy thing to do compared to actually reskinning a platform or reskinning, I don't know, any other genre. You think just get your sprites in, sort the hitboxes out, away you go.
But the one I was playing with Street Fighter 2 characters in, it was like, I was like hype. I was like having a great time. Like fireballs and dragon punches and tattoos and all this stuff. It was like, oh man, this is incredible. I was having an absolute blast with it. So
there you go.
Yeah, there's like lots of different versions of it. Like the new challenges version with the 4 characters from Super Street Fighter, and I think you can get one with the 4 bosses and things. It's brilliant fun. The characters are kind of like oddly proportioned next to Streets of Rage characters, because they've literally imported it from. Yeah, they've literally imported them, I think, from the Street Fighter games, so they're a little bit too big in comparison to the Streets of Rage enemies and stuff. But just at a glance, it's like when the action's going on, it doesn't really matter too much, and it's really fun to play. So yeah, good times.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to give a few of those a go. I've got quite hyped about extending out, and actually we played a few different versions of Streets of Rage just itself, the base game, on the different consoles, so that we're obviously we are talking about the Mega Drive game, like in this podcast. But we've had a go on the others. So like, you've been playing Master System, right?
Yeah, really good, I thought, as well. I had a really fun time with it. So I was really surprised. I mean, it's like it's got the omission of the 2-player mode.
Yeah.
So, and that is one thing that the Game Gear's got going for it, because you can do link up in it. But they are actually 2 different like builds basically of the game. But yeah, no, it was really, really good, really well put together. It was slightly different to the Mega Drive version in how it played. Like a lot of the enemies kind of grab you, but you can kind of do reversal kind of things. And I was like, wait, is that in the Mega Drive one? And I had to go back and double check and all this sort of stuff. But yeah, no, I tell you what, if I had that game back in the day when I had a Master System and not a Mega Drive, I would have been very happy with it. I think it's a good game.
I like that angle actually with the reversals. It makes you also think, what would have been good? A block, because the things on Streets of Rage 2, it's a lot easier to get in first with your punch compared to Streets of Rage. Like on the Mega Drive one, like many times, like the basic punks that would rock up. Like for the first few hours I was playing it, I was like, man, why are they getting me? Because in Streets of Rage 2, they just give you that extra second before they get you.
Yeah, that's true, actually. I think
and you
you're
think
right.
like, it maybe like on the balancing, you're thinking, I wonder how a block would have played out. I mean, you had 3 buttons, so they would have struggled. But you know what I mean? It's like...
Yeah, I mean, I always had the thing, whereas if they get in the second punch, you don't want to be trying to overcome them anymore. You want to be backing away.
Yeah.
So it's like if they get a punch and you're trying to like attack and it doesn't happen and they get in the second punch, then I was like reversing out of it to kind of regroup and then kind of get them. And that was sort of like, it wasn't like a block, but it was like, okay, right, I'm not gonna win this fight.
Because you're right, because if the second one gets in, they'll typically go on to the 3 or 4 and get you knocked to the floor.
And actually you take a knockdown.
I was playing on the Mega Drive one, I was playing mainly as Blaze, and normally, obviously, I'm main as Axel when we play Streets of Rage 2, but I just found him a bit sluggish on this. So anyway, I was playing as Blaze, who I can't remember the stats. I'm guessing her stamina was a bit less than the others, or she.
Yeah. I think she gets like A for like speed and movement or something like that, but like B for like the stamina, I think it is, or maybe attack power. I can't remember.
Yeah. But basically one of those where they get in like the 3 or 4 punch combo and you knock you down. That's a good. It's about half to 2/3 of your health, and it's like Jesus. That's like
No, that is one of the things. Like compared to the Master System version, it was like the energy you lose is like feels much greater, I think it is. But the thing is, when you pick up an apple in the Mega Drive version, you get such a small amount of health back. It's like it's like minuscule. But in the Master System version, you get like a generous amount back, and it's like you feel a lot more content, I think, when you pick up just an apple in that version. So
well, way to go.
Very, very happy though. Yes.
Oh yes, that's it. The spot.
Yes.
Yeah, Game Gear One. I mean, I think I said to you before, I'm not a huge fan of it, and like I struggle with it a bit, and I haven't played the Master System one, and so I can't really compare between those two. So I don't know whether the MS one plays better. I think what happened was I got Streets of Rage 2 on the Game Gear first, which obviously the Mega Drive one is so good. I really think it would struggle to like match everything that it does, and so much of the Mega Drive one is how manic it gets, and you like the tactics to jump between lots of enemies and stuff, and the range of moves, and I don't know, it really struggles by comparison. And then I went to Streets of Rage on the Game Gear, and I think it's just a bit tricky because I think probably Streets of Rage Game Gear holds up better like as a game against Streets of Rage Mega Drive, but it had got in my head by that point, so it's okay. I'm glad, and you got to remember it's an 8-bit small screen system. It's never going to be massive, and on that basis, for the system, it's a decent game. But yeah,
and at least it's got the 2-player option in it, I suppose, with the link up. So that's one thing.
Yeah. I don't. Sadly, got no mates. So what are you gonna do? Anyway, the other version I played was the 3DS one, which you put me onto and talked about like these 3D releases that Sega had done. And oh my god, it's so good. I genuinely just didn't think it would make such a big difference. So it's by our fan favourite M2, the version of it who did our beloved and brilliant virtual racing one that we were talking about a few weeks ago. It's just so good. The classic thing about the 3DS is you buy it, you turn on the 3D, it hurts your eyes, you turn it off again, and it's like
true.
And so I probably genuinely in the life of the 2 3DSs that I've had will have played about 99% of it without the 3D turned on.
For sure.
But I persevere with this because it's so good. It's like
it's nice in this game.
I played Streets of Rage and then Streets of Rage 2 straight after, both on the 3D version, and they make such good use of it. But the sprites look so good. One of the I was looking at something on Etsy the other day, Streets of Rage related, and you see like a lot. They do those little dioramas, where they'll do little cardboard sprites and little cardboard backgrounds. And it's so like that, or like I likened it to it's like if they did a little puppet show, of like the 2D
I know what you mean.
And there's just something gorgeous about that. It's so like it looks great, but it is also really immersive. Like if you're going to do one level, you have to do that level 7 elevator going up to Mr. X's HQ or whatever.
Yeah, I like that.
Because on the 3D. The city is there's such depth to it.
Oh yeah,
because you remember it, like, you're obviously going up and you go higher and higher, and more of the city emerges, and then some of the backdrop behind the city emerges, and it's just so good. The 3D is. I
love that. I mean, even in the Mega Drive versions, like the slow reveal of the skyscrapers, it's really cool and stuff.
But they've just did such a good job. I mean. I was saying to you, I think it is probably my favourite use of 3D on that system, which is really saying something given it's not a 3D game. It's like
but they implemented it well. Yeah, they did.
So it's really worth playing. In fact, I think I played up to level 6 on the emulated Mega Drive version, and then I replayed it from the start on the 3DS, and it's just so good. So
it's nice.
I don't rave about it too much, but obviously it was nice because it just added that bit of oomph to this. And I don't know what they've done with the sound, because they would have had to obviously work out a way to either emulate or port across the sound, but it also sounds really good as well. So
cool,
I'd say music, but just a version for the 3DS.
Nice and beefy, yeah. Because I did have a version of Streets of Rage 2, I think it was, on my iPhone at one point, like a long time ago.
Yeah.
And they really messed the sound up on it. It was like distorted and everything. And I was just like, what are they doing here? This is like one of the most iconic, legendary soundtracks, and that's what they've messed up on. It's like, come on, guys.
Yeah, that's bad.
I don't know who was behind that port, but like, yeah, that was.
Cause I was thinking, I don't know how they do the sound on these. I would guess that there's enough memory on these modern consoles that they could just literally record it and play it back, CD style.
I mean,
but
like, these Mega Drive games were so tiny.
Yeah,
it was like, the megabits. It wasn't even megabits. It was like megabytes. It was like smaller than that, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was like,
it's just nuts.
It's like nothing.
And so why they wouldn't do that? Because it's really not gonna. What would you need to do? Like an MP3 version or whatever you use in a game of this track. But I imagine if they tried to recreate it as an actual in-game thing, which I'm sure they don't do, but that would be complex because you need the Mega Drive's own architecture. Like its chip was so personified by this music that that would be hard to do. But just record it, just play it back. Yeah,
that's true.
Anyway, it's interesting though. It's nice to play it again fresh. And I was thinking, I really don't remember us playing this loads back in the day. Like it came up.
The original,
yeah. It came up on a whole bunch of stuff, and obviously unlike.
I can tell you why. So, like,
tell me.
Basically, I mean, I guess I was the first one to get a Mega Drive, wasn't I?
Yeah,
so
alright.
It was
Rub
like,
it in. Jeez, man, showing off territory.
Yeah, I mean, where were you, SNES boy? Anyway.
Man, talk about walking into.
Anyway, so like, so I got like the Mega Drive. I think it was Christmas '92, and then. So like I had Sonic 1, Sonic 2, whatever, and then Streets of Rage 2 came out in February '93. Like over here anyway, like it was actually out in America and Japan, like I think in 1992, but we didn't quite get it yet. But like the first one we went to in this series was not the first one, it was Streets of Rage 2. Because I had this issue of CVG, and I was like, this looks like the best thing I've ever seen. And like they gave it like 95% or something. And it was our friend Wayne's birthday. And I was like, Wayne, look at this game. Please get this game for your birthday in February. And like he did. And like actually it's funny, I remember I had to go to like an optician's appointment, and we were like driving up the road, and I suddenly saw Wayne emerge in the distance, and he was like running, and he was like getting closer and closer, and I was like, that's Wayne. What's he doing? Why is he running? And suddenly like he looks up and sees us, and he holds up a copy of Streets of Rage 2 with the biggest grin on his hand. And it must have looked like an abduction or something, because I was like, stop the car, grab him, get him in the car. And I made him come to the opticians with me and like wait and stuff. And it was just like, I was not letting him or that copy of Streets of Rage 2 out of my sight. But yeah, that was basically when we first played the series. And it was only later that I remember there was this video game rental place that I used to rent like Master System games from, and like we'd already played the heck out of Streets of Rage 2, and I was like, well, I gotta see what the first one's all about. So that's when I rented that game, and that was when we first kind of ended up playing it. So that was kind of how it turned out. We did it in reverse. So.
And a lot of people were the same, because obviously we as a country came to Mega Drive late in the day, and so a lot of people didn't pick it up until Streets of Rage 2 was either on its way or was out. And it is the wrong way to play it, because Streets of Rage is a great game, but is there harder competition than being up against Streets of Rage 2?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't like expect it to be up to that standard, and it obviously wasn't. But like, it was. I could see the quality in it and like the differences in it with the ending and stuff. Because like, I was like hanging out with this kid called Matt Panau at the time, and that's who we I played through in 2-player with, and we kind of did all the different versions of the ending to
Yeah.
kind of see what happened. Like I remember the first time we did it, we got dumped back to level 6 or something like
I mean,
that. And it
I
was-
just got to say, by the way, that is really harsh, because there is a lot of
Yeah.
there is a lot of slugging through hard battles
Yeah,
in
we
6 and
just
7
fought
to get
through
back
that.
there.
We fought through that final level, and we were like, "Yes, we've made it!" And it's like we were like clinging to life and stuff like that. And it was like, "Chuck you back to level 6," and it was like,
Properly,
But at the same time,
properly
it
brutal.
it was brutal, but like we did have to kind of like be like, okay, that's like actually quite cool. So, like, because I think we got that ending because we both said that we'd join him, like to join the syndicate or whatever and stuff, and then he threw us back to level 6.
You
So
are
it
bad
was like
dudes.
a lesson. I know, it was like a lesson in like being on the
Morality.
good side or something. Yeah.
What a bunch of punks. It reminds me a little bit of season 2, I guess it would have been, of The Traitors with Claudia Winkleman, where in the opening episode, spoiler alert if you're going to watch it, they get the contestants in, they ask them to put themselves in order of which one's going to go first, and whoever's at the end of the queue, first episode, 10 minutes in, they go home. Claudia, she is Mr. X.
She runs a tight ship.
She
there.
runs a devilish shit. I got to go back to one thing as well, because if for anyone who's ever met Wayne, the idea of him grinning at you and running down the street is like something from a horror film. It's a bit in Nightmare on Elm Street where Freddy's got his long arms and he's going down an alleyway doing this, and that's how I'm picturing that sucker. Wayne, by the way, for those who don't know, was the original trio of the media empire. That has since become gaming for ages. He may well crop up one day, staking a claim.
You never know. He has watched one of my other videos, like on my old channel and stuff. He texted me one time after it was an episode of Streets of Rage 2, and I said
Nice.
like some memory in it, and he was like laughing about it and things. So
what you're telling me,
somehow
he's just
find
sat
it.
there watching, waiting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's gonna come and find you for calling him Freddy Krueger. He's
Man,
gonna hunt you down.
if
in
you
your
are watching,
dream.
Wayne, Freddy Krueger's a compliment for you, dude. You know?
Oh, mate.
That's harsh. Love you.
Outers.
Love you, man. Love you, man. You weirdo. Right, so, but that is true about the Streets of Rage 2 being tough to compare against. I got to say that it was refreshing to play it, because I did really dial into it though. Like, it's the first kind of half hour to hour, I was struggling a bit because the timing of the attacks is a bit different. Like I say, those sort of basic punks, what are they even called? Galcio in the second game or something? What's the name? You know the ones I mean.
Like
the main
yellow
punks.
signal, blue signal, whatever.
Yeah,
all that
but
sort of stuff.
Two things they've done in Streets of Rage is they've given them that burst of speed. You know, some of them really rush at you. In the you know the dude who like hunches over the little knife in the second game, where he does it in the first game.
Oh yeah,
too.
you always look like an old granny.
Yeah, like, oh, I've got a knife. Would you like to see
funny
it?
little man.
It's so weird, actually, why he does that. It's like all of the others
I
are
know,
quite
it's very
butch strutting down the
peculiar.
street, and he's like, oh, I've got
Yeah.
a knife. So, but you never saw him coming. But in the second game, he has that rush of speed where he'll kind of like trot, zoom at you, and it's real. That's why everyone hates him so much. And
Right.
but in the first games, a lot of them have got that. You know, they'll come on screen and rush at you and throw a punch before. They definitely don't get like sting you in that way in the second one. Anyway, so
Yeah, it's a little more friendly,
did
friendly to you that way.
I did struggle because the other thing is, and I've done every single time I've picked up Streets of Rage in the last like 20 years. I know there's no A attack special moves like this.
Yeah.
I always forget there's no grand upper, and it's like,
Oh,
you know,
man.
the B. Like, I always forget, and I'm like, where the hell is it? Am I doing it
It's
wrong? Have
so
I got the
dialed
time?
into my mind. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know what you mean. It's like you're surrounded by some guys. It's like you hit that A button, and
Yeah.
it's like, no, you can't do that in this game. You gotta deprogram yourself, because it's like you're just gonna use up your, what is it, like napalm attack or something like that, isn't it?
It is more basic. It's kind of like it's maybe a bit of an overstatement to say it's more pure, because like it's like basic is the better word maybe, but
Yeah.
like it does, once you dial into it, it is still really satisfying, and there are tactics.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's like I love it. I love it almost has like a grittiness about it. Like Streets of Rage 2 is really polished, and and it's like it's very accomplished with everything that it does, but this has got kind of a grittiness about it that I really like. It just feels nice. It's a great example of kind of like those kind of getting to grips with the Mega Drive kind of games, and like just really starting to make it shine.
I think gritty is a brilliant word for it, because obviously stylistically it's gritty, but the crunchiness of the punching and it's really, they've obviously spent a long time getting the feel of that right, and I would say they got it even better in the second one, so I'll stop going on about the second one, but they really did land how satisfying it is. Street Fighter does that, Street Fighter 2 does that, games that really get the feel right. Virtua Cop, sorry, massive segue, but Virtua Cop as a shooting game also nails it. That feel of when your hit lands, it's nice.
It's true.
A quick shout out to the pipe as well. So the pipe and the baseball bat, because in the second game, it's very satisfying. You get a kind of double hit, don't you, when you do the pipe over your head. And something I'd noticed in this one is you swing the pipe, don't you, like in a kind of more like round fashion. Yeah. And you can take out enemies that are on a slightly different level from you, and it's really helpful as like a kind of as they're approaching you, you're kind of not on their level, so they won't punch you, but you can take them out first. And I thought, that's quite neat. That's a neat little advantage, like.
Yeah, I think I got through most of the second level when I was playing on the run I recorded, like because of the pipe, and like it had like that good range as well. and was like
satisfying.
It is satisfying. It's really cool. Like I love all that sort of stuff.
A little bit actually that came out more on the 3DS version, because you kind of think, if you sort of picture when it's on a 2D screen, it feels kind of like there are about, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 planes. Although obviously you can like move backwards and forwards along the stage, it always feels like the enemies are always on one of 4 planes. And in the 3D one, actually, you notice they're a lot more subtle. They're like on about 8 different planes in the thing. And but the point being, when you've got the pipe, you can take them out wherever the hell they are. It's really good. Yeah.
That's the winner.
That's the winner. It's an absolute beaut.
Yeah.
I was reading something though about the difficulty, and it was the Noriyoshi Ohba, the producer of this game, and he was talking about Revenge of Shinobi, but he was saying they spent a long time like doing the balancing, and how they deliberately made it so that you would have died a load of times by certain points of the game. They mapped out how many lives they expected you to have, how much they expected you to have died. And it's kind of, I read that midway through playing this through the second time, and I sort of found it a bit relieving, because I was like, man, am I meant to have been able to stay alive this whole time? Because I've died a lot. And he was kind of, but it's like, what he actually says is that he talks about one of the bosses in Shinobi, and he says, basically, by the time you get to that point, we expect you to have 5 lives, and for you to need to use the ninjutsu 4 times or 3 times or whatever to get his energy down. There is no really easy way to beat the boss. That's what we expect you to do. And it's like, thank God, because the number of times in the later bosses where I would call in the car on Streets of Rage.
Oh yeah, you would always have to call the car to get that down to the orange level of help or something. So, but it was always finding a little trick. I think it was always finding a little trick, like to do to beat the bosses. Like I think when I got to the 2 evil blazes, I suddenly realized like they were very. If you're facing away from them, they kind of advance towards you, and then you could hit them with the is it the B and C move, like the backhand or whatever, I was doing that, the roundhouse, and that was like, oh man, I could have saved myself like a couple of lives if I had figured that out earlier, because I think I figured that out when I was on the 8th stage, like facing them for the second time and that, and it was like,
because they are tricky.
That's when I could have doubled the lives.
Yeah,
they were tricky.
I burned through a lot of lives.
What was going on?
I did watch a bit of. I don't know if it was a playthrough you sent me, but I subsequently watched someone else playing it, and I saw their tactic. A lot of dodge them, let them jump. When they come in close, get them in a grapple and slam them that way.
Oh yeah.
And I was thinking, that works. Like obviously, there's a couple of bosses you can do that on. There's a couple where it never works, like the guy with the claws and stuff. And,
I hate that guy.
I hate that guy.
He's really annoying.
When we've been doing YouTube for a few years, we should do a little montage about saying, I hate that guy, because there's always someone every game.
There's always some out of order boss or something.
The other thing I should do is, before I play, I should get you to record your footage and then watch. Because every time when I'm editing these and I watch you play it, I'm like, oh yeah, like that's how I should have done that. And it's like,
oh man, I don't know if this footage would have helped you, because I did go through a couple of continues, like at least to get to the end of the game. So.
I did. I would say probably by, when do you fight the two blazes? At level 6 the first time. It's like, I can't remember. It's around that sort of.
Yeah.
It's around the sort of middle, sort of going to. Anyway, by that point, I think I'd used 1 or 2 continues. I think on that fight, I went through about 5. Like they just annihilated
5
me.
continues.
Yeah.
5 lives. Yeah.
No.
5 lives.
5 continues.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, like, sometimes you get into a little, like when you get a bit despondent as well, and you're like, oh, what the hell? And you're not really in it either. Yeah. And that's like 15 lives. It can't have been that many. That sounds too many. I definitely went through a few continues on them. I know that much.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I know it makes sound terrible, but listen, I'm all about the honesty. I was like,
yeah.
But then you started getting the tactics, and I guess that's the thing. We play in a very condensed way, don't we? It's like, the sort of fortnight we play the games, that would have been like months if you bought it the first time around. But you always see those patterns starting to emerge in the little ways through, and that curve is, the balancing is really good.
And I definitely learned patterns easier when I was younger as well.
Yeah.
Like, just kind of thinking back, the way we kind of almost toyed with the game when we were young, like to see all the different endings and stuff.
Yeah.
And now it's like I was getting through by the skin of my teeth. It's like I felt like I was at the mercy of the game, and I was kind of thinking like, oh, how do we kind of like just experiment with it so much when we were kids? We must have been like way better than we are now.
I mean, a huge thing is the timing, though, isn't it? When you're really dialed into the timing of your basic moveset, that then does give you a boost for everything, and so then you can push on from there. And it's like, the first few hours of playing it, I was like, maybe not that long, but like it took a while to dial in and really sort of get that down.
Yeah. It was that flame dude that I hated, the one with the fire breathing thing. Like I the first time round I fought him and I kind of figured out the little pattern to do, and then when I've met him on the end stage, I couldn't do it. Like literally, I don't know if you're going to use the footage that of me playing it, but it's embarrassing. It's like, it was like he literally would have effectively perfect me like 3 times. I couldn't get him, and he was like, he killed me like 3 times in a row or something. But
what's he called in the second one? Is he Big Ben in the second one?
Oh yeah, it's something like that. Yeah. But I think in Streets of Rage 2, because you can't like throw him backwards in a throw, but in the second one you can. And so I was like, oh right. So then when we got to Streets of Rage 3, I thought, oh, you could just do like you did in the second one, but then they put that back in, that you couldn't back throw him because he was so heavy, and it hurt you instead. So it's like they're just messing with you like all over the show.
In the second one, can you do either throws? Because like on this one, I was like I played it. I tried to suplex him a couple of times, and obviously he fell on me and hurt me. And I remembered it, and I'm thinking, I must know that from the second one. So can you throw in one direction but not in the other?
Yeah, you can just throw him like he's any other enemy in that version. But like, it was very surprising when I then went back to the first one. It's like, what's going on here? It's hurting me. What's happening?
God damn it!
Yeah.
He did have one thing which got right on my tits. Actually, it was like if you like did a jumping kick on him, it was either when he just finished the flame and it was over, or when he was just about to start, but it definitely wasn't on screen. You'd get the hit in, but then you'd still get hurt, and it was like, there's no flame coming out of that dude's mouth. I should not have got hurt then. So actually,
one thing I noticed that was quite different to the other ones is that when they pass a certain point outside of the screen, they then lose their hitbox.
Yeah.
Whereas in Streets of Rage 2, I feel like you can continue to hit them for quite a distance.
You definitely
Whereas
can.
this one passes a point and it's like it just literally cuts it off, so you're not hitting them anymore.
Because like often on the second one, you'd be you'd be duffing up some dude on the edge of the screen, and one of the others would walk into the fray and like start getting a beat as well, and it's I can it happened quite a lot. So you can still catch them near the edge of the screen, but you're right, when they're off, they do seem to be gone, which is like it's tricky. Because it doesn't stop them. Obviously, the ones with the rush moves, like the Ultimate Warrior dude and and the basic goon that does the rush, they can sometimes rush in from the off screen. You're like,
you're kind of like not ready for it because it's so quick and that.
Yeah. Well, we mentioned about that balancing thing on Avenged Shinobi, so it's worth turning a bit to the devs and the other stuff that they had made, because I've got to say one thing actually. When we started doing this, like I had in my head from way back when that this was like an ancient game, like the second one, and so it was actually when we started looking at it, I was like, oh, it's not them. So ancient only came in for the second one, and obviously you had Yuzo Koshiro, and that's probably
he did the soundtrack.
It's probably where that had got in my head that it was ancient doing it. But the devs were a different team, and the main guy on it was this guy Noriyoshi Ohba, and he's one of these star-studded Sega dudes. He's made some proper stuff. So before this, he had made Revenge of Shinobi or Super Shinobi, and which is, as we were talking about in the Sonic game, obviously he brought Yuzo Koshiro in for that, and that is seemingly the start of something for him. So he made, and the way he tells it is they made Revenge of Shinobi and basically down tools, and the team from Shinobi came across and started making Streets of Rage. So it's the core of the team for both games is the same. But this Noriyoshi Ohba guy, he's made Revenge of Shinobi. He then made this. He was producer on those. Shinobi 3 as well. Mean Bean Machine, Clockwork Knight 1 and 2, which I'd say I'd forgive him for. I know it has its fans, but not really one of them. Daytona CCE, so producer for that. So I don't know what his relationship was, because obviously that team, we know them like as a unit, would move around between like Rally and Daytona CCE and the Virtua Racing.
Interchangeable members.
But he's not on those. So interesting, they seem to bring him in for that one. Sakura Wars, I think a few of the entries in the series. 1 to 3 was it?
Yeah, so at least up to 3, I think.
Deep Fear, Skies of Arcadia. I mean,
Skies of Arcadia. That's a good one.
That is a list, and you sort of think of the other big name producers. He is not one that I knew, but that is a list, right? So
did you say Wonder Boy and Monsterland? He did that one too, didn't he?
I didn't
relevant
clock it
to us with the with our Wonder Boy Monster World 4, wasn't it? We did.
Yeah, I just think that's it's fascinating to see where they go, and obviously I think all of the game developers would generally have a mix of in-house staff that were on the payroll and journeymen, people they get in from outside, and it seems there is a really good pool of talented developers that would jump between projects and not necessarily work for the company. But Ohba must have been one of the proper Sega guys, because that is a proper list of IP, isn't it?
Tasked with those games, and then knocking it out the park too. It's like that's pretty quality.
It's interesting that interview where he talks about the balancing in Shinobi. He does talk quite a lot about the role of producer, and it really is quite hands-on on it. So, he's not a programmer, but he's very much right in the game design, the planning, the sort of things like balancing and make, the packaging of the game to make it work really well, which on that list is amazing. Probably Daytona CC maybe being the one where that is exactly what it did need. It's like tuning and balancing and didn't quite work, but yeah. So, but that's some list, and then there's a couple of other guys: Hiroaki Chino and Natsushi Sumiya. I think Chino is I'm guessing it's one of the type that they drafted him from elsewhere, because although he's on a few Sega names, it's not on many. I think eSWAT. I noticed I had to tell my brain to pronounce it eSWAT.
Yeah, reprogram. It's not SWAT or whatever. It's eSWAT.
30 years of calling it SWAT. And Sonic CD, he was on that as well. And then that Atsushi Sumiya, who's is a game designer, so is kind of the Yuzo Koshiro type role.
Right.
And he's on SWAT. He's on Sonic Adventure. He led the art team Sonic Adventure. I think he was also Revenge of Shinobi. And he's the only one I could find that worked on both Streets of Rage original and then on the sequel. Because seemingly, I read an interview with Yuzo Koshiro, and she was saying, well, they had a handful. I think she had about 5 or 10 in-house ancient people, and then sort of 10 or so sort of other programmers they brought in to help them.
Yeah.
But the point being, they weren't Sega people, so.
Okay, yeah, no, because I was just going to say Streets of Rage did have that nod, didn't it, to SWAT? Because it started out. I think its name was going to be D-SWAT, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think I saw, and it had the car that you bring in to nuke people was actually featured in the ending of SWAT, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is identical.
I don't know if you play. I don't know if it showed up anywhere else. Did you play much of it? I had a little go of it.
What, of eSWAT?
Yeah.
Yeah, I played a few levels on it, enough to get to the point where you get the battle suit thing.
Get the suit, yeah.
I'm gonna say actually, I really enjoyed it. I've always had it down as one of those games
Decent
that was
little shooter.
I always thought, oh no, it's a bit old and basic. No, it's pretty good. It's got some good ideas.
It's got a bit of a feel of RoboCop versus Terminator about it.
It really does.
You know what I mean? And I actually wondered if they were taking influence from RoboCop a bit, because I don't know, was the story because you play a cop for the first couple of levels, don't you? And then suddenly you get the suit. I was thinking, I was kind of expecting this story, the cop's going to get killed and then he's going to get turned into RoboCop or something. Even though actually the suit that you get reminded me more of Kane from RoboCop 2 than the actual RoboCop. It's kind of got a bit of a similar vibe about it.
It's a very 90s suit with the massive shoulders as well. And it does. It reminded me of the game actually, with the sort of platformy bit to it, where you sort of obviously jumping around. Some of the element of, I don't know, just the placement, the movement of the enemies and stuff. But no, it has good ideas. And so there's a few of them. I think I've only talked about those 3 people, and 2 of them were on SWAT. I think there are a couple of others, but this guy probably is the designer. What's his name? Atsushi Sumiya he's the lead designer on both games. So he probably drew that car. So he just.
I think he'd been watching Transformers as well, because the 1986 movie. Because in the intro, it's when Unicron's turning Megatron into Galvatron, and the other deceased Decepticons into Cyclonus and Scourge or whatever, and it's got that kind of neon liney Tron looking kind of thing, and it was just like Transformers. I'm like, oh, I like this already. This is really cool.
I didn't at the start of that. I did not know how you were going to link those two together. I'm with you now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they are.
But it's interestingly. So he's the. I might be wrong. I'm not a game historian, but Samir is the only guy that I could see that moved across from the actual development team to the second game, and obviously Yuzo Koshiro did as well. Which is it's interesting. I don't know what the logic would have been there. I mean, you see the way Yuzo Koshiro's career in relationship with Sega kind of panned out. He came in, he worked on Revenge of Shinobi. They got him obviously to work on this as well. He picked up Sonic, I think, in between? No, after. So after Revenge of Shinobi anyway, wasn't it? And so you kind of see how that relationship then blossomed into something else.
Yeah, because he was still kind of doing other bits on the side, wasn't he? I think he did ActRaiser on the SNES, didn't he? And he did on the TurboGrafx CD. He was Ease 1 and 2, Books 1 and 2.
Actually, it was always surprising.
Which is a really good soundtrack as well.
That was one of the first internet revelations. Was, oh my god, Yuzo Koshiro does stuff for other systems. Oh my god,
I felt betrayed. I was like, it's like, what?
But I guess what I'm getting at is the point that they were building a relationship with him and Ancient, and so it would kind of make sense they might trust them to like pick up the second game. But Streets of Rage went down really well. It went really well. It's like a big success, and like obviously like his soundtrack was great, but I guess I'm thinking it's surprising that why they wouldn't have reused their own development team, because they had done well. So
although you know what, in Japan it apparently wasn't that popular. Streets of Rage 1.
Okay.
They had to like the American kind of side of Sega had to really push the Japanese side to make Streets of Rage 2 because it hadn't done that well in Japan.
Yeah, well that makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah. So because there was always that, like, it was like the American side and the Japanese side seemed to always be butting heads, didn't they? Like you know, even like way further with the Saturn and the 32X and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, massively.
But like they were really reluctant to make the second one because of the first one. But it's like, oh man, I am so glad that they made Streets of Rage 2.
I guess that's the fit then, right? Can you
imagine if they hadn't?
You know, saying, okay, we'll do it, but we'll farm it out to Ancient. And we'll we'll get them on it. Something of that logic. Yeah, thank God they did. Just
man.
Don't even say it. Don't even talk about a world where Streets of Rage doesn't exist yet.
Not even. I tell you, if there's one story that needed what's wrong putting right, that kind of the wrong way around, that would have been it. But
come on, dude, this is your line. You gotta get your line.
We haven't got into the story, so I haven't got to use it. Do you want me to do the story quickly?
Should we have a little go on the story? Let's have a go on the story. Yeah.
So I was gonna read. You know, this is the disappointing thing to me. Look at this. I can't remember where I got this copy. Streets of Rage on the Mega Drive. Okay. There is no manual inside the box.
Man.
What
are you doing to me?
I know. But let's read the box. It says, the city has been taken over by a massive crime syndicate. 3 young police officers have quit the corrupt metropolitan police force and set out to topple the organization on their own! ! So, as I like to say, they are clearly putting right what once went wrong. Actually, you know what? I wonder what it says on the Master System one.
I'm just going to say, I've got the old Game Gear bad boy out there.
Yes, this one says something different. Let me read it. Adam Hunter, Axel Stone, and Blaze Fielding, nice second named, are 3 ex-cops that are trying to save their city from the evil crime syndicate that has taken it over. Choose one of them and battle with bare hands, bit of a nod to bare knuckle there, or any weapon you can find as you walk the streets of rage. Oh, I like that. They did a little ... as you walk the streets of rage. Is that what you got in the Game Gear version?
So, is that the back of the box?
Yeah.
Join 2 ex-cops in an all-out war to save the city from a monstrous crime syndicate. That's all it says. But there is more blurb in the manual. So you got...
They just need to say they're putting right what one's right. That's all they need to
Listen,
say.
if you've only got one line, that's the one you do.
Yeah, just nail that. Yeah,
no, darkness descends on a city that was once peaceful and productive. It fell completely apart, victimized by a massive crime organization. Looting, random violence, destruction of property. No one who left the sanctity of his home was safe. Corruption had spread like wildfire through the police department all the way to the top. Even the city government was on the payroll of the syndicate overlord, whose identity had somehow been kept secret. It does go on for quite a bit.
I like that. I felt like I was being drawn into it there.
You're getting the chills.
Dramatic.
I had to go back to the cover. I can't remember whether if the Mega Drive one's the exact same picture, but if you have a close look at the cover, which we'll put in the little window below, but you got people shooting, so that doesn't happen.
Oh yeah.
Blaze is in an all-white outfit with black hair.
Yeah.
I'm just saying how much these covers of the games have nothing to do with the game. Axel looks really like someone. It'll come to me who it is.
He almost looks like his t-shirt looks yellow, like they changed it to in the PAL version for Streets of Rage 3, which was ghastly.
Yeah. And you've got what seems to be like a zombie coming out of the sewers. Like it's a green person coming out of the sewers. And then
you know what? Go on.
I was just going to say, you've also got what seems to be the guy from Splatterhouse, or maybe the guy from Turtles, the one with the hockey
Jason
stick.
Or whatever.
But there's a lot of stuff on there that is not the game. So you do wonder what brief they gave to the artists because it's like
actually, you know what? I think like that particular artwork is quite close to another piece of artwork, like maybe for Final Fight or something like that. I seem to remember they're like people kind of like putting them up against each other. I can't remember which one came first, but there's definite similarities. So
I did
try and find that artwork.
I did look up the guy, and I'm trying to remember. I didn't write any of this down, but I did look up. It's either the guy that did the Streets of Rage. No, it won't have been Streets of Rage 2 because he's famous in other ways. But Streets of Rage artwork.
Oh yeah.
Maybe it's the same. I'm really letting myself down.
Yeah, I don't know
here.
actually.
But I'm pretty sure he went off and did Final Fight 3 or something. So he also did the cover for that, which isn't the one you're talking about. This is a pretty terrible point all round, to be honest. So, it's worth, like, we've kind of keep talking about Streets of Rage 2, and I said it, shut up, but it's worth actually, like, deliberately highlighting some of the differences there are between the games, because it is quite interesting. Ancient did build on it, and I'd say they built on it. They kind of, it's obviously so much that is similar, and certainly like the first level, obviously they start the city, the plot, bits. There's so much that is similar, but if it does feel like the engine is really quite different. So Streets of Rage used, if I understand it right, I think it used the Golden Axe engine. It's like some modified version of the Golden Axe engine. And it feels like Streets of Rage 2 uses their own, because the stuff they've done, obviously, anyway, differences. There's no car. That's like a big thing that goes to Streets of Rage 2. And instead you get the special moves. Which would you rather have? I think I know the answer. I'm sure I know the answer, but which would you rather
special moves all day.
Yeah,
special moves all day. I mean, it's just like, I mean, the car is like a get out of jail free card sort of thing, but you want to kind of, be involved in the action. Actually, it was really strange, like playing the Master System version, because it's only got 2 buttons, and I was like, how do you call the car? And I was like pressing up on. So you actually have to physically press the pause button on the Master System, and then press the attack button, and it doesn't kind of swoop to the side. It kind of just fades to a black screen, and then does a new screen with the car coming onto it, and then doing the napalm thing. But it's it was definitely weird, like having to physically press the pause button on the machine and stuff. It takes you out of the moment a little bit.
It reminds you the bit that the one with the bullies, where in Friends, where like they go outside and they're having a fight, and every time the fight's about to start, they're like, wait, are we hidden faces?
Yeah,
we're hidden faces. Why would we not be hidden faces?
I have a big presentation on Monday.
And nothing below the waist. Are you guys trying again? You were trying. And
oh really?
But as in the link being completely pausing the action to like do something else. It was a bit like that. I mean, it is obviously one of the joys of the first game is like the weirdness of using the car, because obviously when you're on the boat, when you're I suppose the two are, when you're on the boat, when you're in the factory is pretty weird as well. The fact that the car can still obviously appear, but then my personal favourite, the elevator level 7, where
it loses a few stories, doesn't it?
But it's impressive the dedication that they even bothered with that. I'd have just done something like the Master System one, like fade to black and like bring it, swap to the car.
They could have done like a hot helicopter gunship swooping down or something. I don't know, man.
But it's like, no, it wasn't in S-SWAT, dude. E-SWAT, it wasn't in. So, but it's still dedication. It's like zoom it all the way down and all the way along, and it's like, it's a little bit overkill, to be honest. I appreciate that you want to prove that the car was really there, but also the car's in the basement of the building. If you fired that bazooka upwards, anyway, let's not.
That's where all the help comes from. Haven't you seen Die Hard?
Yeah. So, and no special moves. The funny thing is, I've been played a bit of Streets of Rage 2 with the other characters in the last week, because I had the 3D version. I was like mixing up. There's like a whole world of special moves that are not really explored with Max and Skate. It's like, I just know R2, you've Blaze and me, Axel, but I just know those. It's like we did play as the others, but there's a very different feeling game with those.
Yeah.
Because, for instance.
But then it's like, go on. No, I was just going to say I saw some speed runners like I sent you the video, didn't I? Of
Yeah, yeah.
them, and they were like literally they went to Max and Skate, and it was like I was like, what are they picking these two guys for? But then when I watched them play, it was like, oh, because it was
Yeah.
like amazing, like the way they were going using Max's slide to go real fast and take enemies out, and
Yeah.
you know Skate's like zipping all around the place, and it was
Yeah.
like brutal in a way that actually like Axel and Blaze probably couldn't do. It was just like
I
very
know.
eye-opening.
Like we defaulted to them, I guess, because they're.
Yeah.
I mean, they're on the front cover. I guess it's kind of like they feel like the main two because obviously they've come from the other
they're
game
from
as
the
well.
first one, yeah.
But I do still think that they're the best. I mean, the thing is with Axel, he might not be the best technically, but as in sort of, you know, if you were a speedrunner and you're picking someone else, I guess that shows you there's strengths in them that I never tapped into. But it's a very satisfying moveset he's got. And actually, when I went to Streets of Rage, I have to say he was too slow, and I played as Blaze, and it was like, I don't actually know whether they're different in speed, but Blaze felt nippier, so.
Yeah, and he had a funny like that. His jumping attack is that quite short knee, isn't it? And that's quite you know, it feels so stubby, and it hasn't got like that much range, and that kind of, you know, I kind of prefer Blaze for her extended kick, like compared to Axel in that one.
Her kick definitely felt better. There probably isn't any difference in their jab speed, but it felt like you could get a punch in with Blaze a bit quicker, and so
I mean, she looked a bit awkward when she was doing a jumping kick. Did you notice? She was like, her skirt was there, and then her legs were kind of bent in a funny way because they were trying to save her dignity that they didn't maintain in Streets of Rage 2, which was just full on panties.
Panties. And so you'll have to refresh your memory here because, like, obviously, like, I haven't played 2-player Streets of Rage for a while, but the in Streets of Rage 1. It does have those combo, like 2-player combo moves you mentioned, you know, where you can go hold on to your other player's shoulders, and the thing obviously
and jump off.
And when an enemy's grappling you, you can kind of kick out and do it deliberately.
Yeah, you can do the kick thing. Yeah.
What does Streets of Rage 2 have? Does it have those? I can't remember doing them.
Not really. No, it doesn't have any like direct kind of attacks like that. I think they brought it back for Streets of Rage 3 though, didn't they, or something?
Yeah. I mean, that is good. You think again of things that Final Fight didn't have, or you know, other beat 'em ups didn't have, and I think the grappling generally and that sort of 2-player combo things, they're good additions that actually, you know, like you were saying, if you don't have the 2-player mode on stuff, or you don't have a second player, you miss out on. But they in Streets of Rage they had the thing where you could flip over their heads. That wasn't like, you know, when you grab them you can flip over and do a variety of things, whereas in Final Fight you literally grab them from the front or something like that. I think it's much more limited. I mean, Final Fight is like, you know, has much less variety than Streets of Rage, and I think that's one of the reasons that it boost it above that game. Yeah, I agree, because I did the Streets of Rage games out of order, but I also went to Final Fight out of order as well. I played Final Fight after Streets of Rage 2, and going to that, you did think, you know, I've got Final Fight CD, and it's beautiful looking. It is a great game, but I said to you before, like, I don't love it. But
the revelation.
I know,
but you weren't much into it.
But the reason I don't love it is because of Streets of Rage 2. Really, is, you know, it just doesn't have the variety and stuff. But Streets of Rage, I'd probably prefer, if I'm honest. So.
Oh yeah, completely. Like, I mean, it did kind of like put a bit of a rocket up the backside of Final Fight, I think, because when they did 2 and 3, I mean, 2, I own 2, like the Japanese copy, but it's like they kind of brought it. It wasn't a conversion of anything. They brought it much more back into the SNES's capabilities and stuff. So they then had the 2-player version, and it, like, you know, everything wasn't so massive, and that they were trying to recreate from the arcade. And it is it's an alright kind of game, I think. Like, you know, it's got that Maki in it who was. Did they put her into a Street Fighter 5 or something like that? I can't remember. But it's she was like a kind of popular character or something, I think it was.
Yeah, and that's good. And that again is that competition angle, isn't it? About like having these similar games from different devs. They do benefit from that competition. If we're talking differences in Streets of Rage to Streets of Rage 2, though, obviously the big one, beef not turkey. I mean, like, you know, the first time I opened up one of those, I suppose it was a phone box in the first level, wasn't it? And it's what the hell is that? It ain't no turkey.
It's still eating meat off the floor. That's why I did the blade. It just ain't a good look.
Man, these guys are cleaning up the streets.
Is it supposed to be a roast chicken instead of we always called it a turkey, didn't we? But I think it's it's supposed to be a roast chicken or something. I mean,
they kind of do look the same, but it's big. I mean, it kind of looks like a turkey to me because it's such a big.
Yeah, it looks like it's ready for Christmas and they're ready to get tucked into and that by the fam.
So, the one thing that is a continuity, see the smoothness of these links I'm doing. One thing that is continuity between the games is obviously the genius of Yuzo Koshiro, and that's we've done amazingly well. Not to harp on about the soundtrack for this whole episode so far, but we have to turn to it because it's an amazing work. Both games, but Streets of Rage is fantastic. And actually, coming back to it, I was kind of blown away in a whole different way because I'm so used to raving about Streets of Rage 2 soundtrack. I don't think I really remembered how good the original actually was. It's again, I said to you on the 3DS version it sounds particularly good, but on the emulate one it was good as well. But it's a cracker. I mean, how would you rate it against the second one? Let's start with that, because 2 is the one that really made its name maybe, but how would you rate it?
I mean, it's definitely up there. It was like, if I was giving it a score, I give it a 9 out of 10, whereas I give a Streets of Rage 2 10 out of 10. It's that kind of you know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, it's really good, really strong, great use of the Mega Drive's instrumentation, well composed, just really complements what's going on, and it's it just nails it. But then Streets of Rage 2 is just on this other level, the prestige that game soundtrack has just is it's something else, isn't it? So it's a bit like what we were talking about in the comparing Castlevania music to Master of Darkness. I mean, you're literally putting Immortal up against Legend or something like that. It's it's similar.
I guess one thing he did get was that the thing that he came known for in Street Rage 2 was bringing that real world dance and house and I suppose it's a bit of rave in there, getting that sound onto a Mega Drive. He does do that in Streets of Rage. He doesn't do it as much. There's not as many standout moments, but he does make game music that is really better than game music. It sounds like that house and dance of the era. He gets different sounds out of the machine. He achieves that in Streets of Rage, and I guess that's the thing that really sort of got me this time. I was like, wow, this still has that amazing quality of production. That's that real thing that Koshiro did that elevated the Mega Drive, not just above other Mega Drive games, but obviously above the SNES and others. That it just had that Mega Drive sound.
Spot on. I mean, I remember when I was a kid and I had these games, I was recording it onto tape to listen to in the car and stuff like that. And it was just it wasn't out of place though. It was I was just feeling it, driving along in my mum's rubbish FSO car, whatever. I don't even know what kind of car that is, but but I was rocking in my head. I was in a Lambo or something. But listening to the Streets of Rage soundtrack, it was just it was just otherworldly or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and it really stands out. It's a fantastic soundtrack. I think the standout moments is maybe the difference between the two. In Streets of Rage 2, at every level, it really I'm thinking, this is the track I love the most. Oh, this is so memorable. In Streets of Rage, it is a little bit more it's just there, but that's a bit of faint praise for how good it actually is. It fits with the game really well. It's not so much of a in your face, got real hooks and stuff which stay with you. But it's just all consistently really good quality.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. No, it's it just gives all the levels a great feel and just makes it so you just I don't know. It really takes you to that place kind of in your mind, like you're kind of feeling the environment, I think, and it's like it really complements it, I find.
I suppose the other thing of it which we talk about is influences, because Koshiro's always talked about as, you know, we know he had the influences from the 90s dance scene that people always say he's a really big club colour, and of course the flip side is there are quite a few influences that perhaps go beyond influences to being, has he kind of nicked a bit of a track and got in there? Right. I mean, worth chucking a few examples. I've sort of jumped between both games because some of the most famous ones are more on Streets of Rage 2. What's man, my mind's got feedback. What's the track that's the Shaman track called?
Oh, Move Any Mountain.
Move Any Mountain, and that's like that, and compared to the Streets of Rage 2 track, is like probably the most compelling. This sounds very like he's actually like
I mean, you can literally sing it. You can sing along, can't you? The melody, I think it was. We used to do that, like, you know, we just called it "Move Any Mountain" because it was like that's basically what the tune was. So.
It is the only reason I know any other tracks by the Shaman though. So because they did Ebenezer Goodright, the Shaman. That's the only other track of theirs I know is this one because of the Under Logic, right? But the others, so other influence he had, there's definitely like a soul to soul link in there, and I said to you, which also itself sounds quite like that track by Enigma. I want to say,
what did you say it was called?
Well,
Sadness.
I looked up on Apple Music and it was called Sadness, but I think you were saying we'd always just called it Sadness.
I had a CD and I always thought it said Sadness on it, but like, I don't know. Yeah, I mean that was like so long ago. I can't remember.
But then the bit in that is he talks about quite openly it, and I don't think it's really lifted. It has a beat, a kind of swing beat to it, like the drum thing. This is in the intro. I think it's in both games actually.
Yeah.
It's like that intro, that sort of slightly skiffy off the drum sound, and the timing of the beat is identical. But then you listen to a bunch of other songs of that era, they're all using it. It's like, it's just a very zeitgeisty sound, I think. So.
Yeah, and actually I think he used a certain portion of the Mega Drive, the cartridge memory, actually sampling a particular drum sound. I seem to remember that he was like very insistent in getting in there. That was you know, one of the common kind of sounds of the era, I think, and he actually, it wasn't like, you know, being generated from the Mega Drive itself. I think he actually sampled it for use, and that's one of the reasons that it has such a...
I didn't know that, but I mean that was some feat then, because obviously you know how limited the memory space was in these games. Like having samples in there was quite something. I did read actually because he did samples for both games, as in like the game sound effects, and I think in the second one he does a lot of the voices as well, you know, like the character voices. And he did reuse quite a lot of the samples from the first game in the second one, like game samples, that is. But so influences maybe straying into borrowing a couple of times, but I do kind of think it's, the more tracks of that era I listen to, you know, there's a lot of sites that will sort of do these comparisons stuff. The more I thought, I don't know, man, it feels like they were all borrowing these same sounds. They were all these new sounds that make that like generation or that era's sound what it is.
I mean, I've seen people take his tunes and put it against this track, and then they take the same Yuzo Koshiro song and put it against another track, and you can kind of see the similarities in both of them, even though they're putting it up against two different songs and stuff. But yeah, I don't know, but whatever. Anyway, it works so well.
I know, that's the thing. This is not to get down on it, because even when you listen to the one that's so similar, that Move Any Mountain, it's like the genius of getting that music onto a Mega Drive is still something. And so, because he wrote his own language, which I can't remember what the name is. It's something like, I should have written this down. It's something that got love in the title anyway. But so he took the programming language and made it his own, and that's how he done both games. And
actually, like sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say that is part of the genius. So even if he had literally taken a track and put it on the Mega Drive, it's still genius. So,
but it's like the influences and like his kind of upbringing, what he learned on the piano, just shines through in so many different ways. Like there's like a professional piano player, I can't remember his name, but he's like got a really big YouTube channel,
Yeah.
and he goes through the Streets of Rage 2 soundtracks, kind of figuring it out. And you know, when you get to that bluesy bar in the second level of Street, no, it's in the first level, isn't it? But it's the second section of the first level, and it's got all these kind of like curious chords and all this stuff, and the way it all kind of gels together. And this guy was just like going through it, figuring it out on piano, being like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. Like the genius of it is like next level. I think Yuzo Koshiro actually saw the video, and he was really like, you know, like, oh cheers kind of thing for acknowledging his work. But like, you know, this dude went through like loads of the songs and kind of just showed like, this is not just like your average game music. This is like, there's something else going on here. This is like next level, you know. And it was so interesting to watch.
I think I saw some of that guy's stuff actually, like the the piano guy taking it apart.
He's probably really famous or something, and I can't remember. I don't know who he is.
Everyone watching going like, how do you not know that guy?
Yeah. But it's anyway. Like, if he ain't got a Sega Saturn channel, I ain't gonna know.
Yeah, play it. So put some Saturn footage on, and I'll listen to what you've got to say. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But and obviously Yuzo Koshiro gets talked about as having influenced others. And one of the really interesting ones that stood out, I was just sort of reading around that, was this guy Just Blaze, who's like a big time record producer, like I think mainly famous because he worked with Jay-Z and like Eminem and some of the other kind of big stuff, like American stars in that scene or whatever, who is, as you might guess, named after Blaze Fielding. And like he cites it in interviews and stuff. And he's also done some computer games and like done his own soundtracks for games and stuff. But he cites Yuzo Koshiro in this work as like being a real influence on him, and said, probably not in the music he then went on to make necessarily, but just as, this sounds so cool, I really want to kind of do this myself.
The inspiration.
So well, let's go to one of the most obvious questions in the world. Would you still play it today?
I mean, like, yeah, I would. I mean, obviously, like, if you're going to the top of the pile, like for Streets of Rage games, you go to 2.
Yeah.
But like the first game is like, you know, it's not massively far off. I think it is a blast. I absolutely love playing it again, even though, like what we were saying earlier, these games are 2-player games, aren't they? And it's like the omission of that, like just playing it on your own is like, you know, it ain't the same thing, but it's still so fun. And it's like just like I was saying, the environments, the all the moves, all the music, it's just it's top drawer. It's top drawer.
It's absolutely top dollar. I would say it although there is still for me like a big gap between the two, it is a lot closer than I thought it was, because
in terms of enjoyment, I wasn't far off, I would say.
Because once I got the time in and dialed into it, once I sort of like worked out my own attack patterns without the special moves in the second game and kind of got my own thing going on, it is really crunchy and satisfying, and it has a lot of those characteristics of the second game that really make it click. It's still a cracking game. I have to give a kind of bonus prop to that 3DS version though, because it really it does add to it. It's not just that it looks pretty. There's something extra in like playing it in
it works
3D planes. It's really
enhances.
It's just really it does get into gameplay, especially on that elevator level, which are just gonna could rave about all day.
I need to get to that stage on the 3DS.
Yeah, because you have to. There are bits where you can use the depth of field. Obviously, some of the enemies you can judge where they are better, and you land your hits more satisfyingly. And just bits, you know, the sort of the stages where there's holes in the floor, you could chuck people down them at the bridge level and stuff. It
I like that.
Feels better in 3D. So
that
did help.
Cool.
It did give it that little extra boost. But yeah, no, it is a cracking game, and I would say it's better than I remember. and it's closer to Streets of Rage 2 than I
Yeah.
thought it would be, and that's both of those are big statements, to be honest. So,
yeah. I mean, it has its fans as well who do put it above Streets of Rage 2. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if that's kind of
That's
like,
a
you know,
big shout.
the kind of yeah, it is. Like, you know, I don't know if it's like people being a bit cool. You know, it's like when you have people who's like are into Nevermind by Nirvana, and then people are like, oh no, Bleach is my favorite because it's the lesser kind of like more obscure kind of one. You know what I mean? But it's like, yeah, but it's up there, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic game.
And against all those other, I'm going to say against those other belt scrollers that we listed earlier, you know, I would put it up there. We have got Golden Axe in this list as well, and I'll be interested to see, like, going back to that one, like whether it kind of still catches me in the same way that Streets of Rage did. It's that bit. I suppose it's that. I'm going to say it's that bit more basic, but no, it's got its own complexities and stuff. But I remember it belonging to an era before Streets of Rage, even though actually by date they were really not that far apart.
They were a million miles off, weren't they? Yeah.
But it feels like Streets of Rage, like we were saying before, was ushering in the new era, whereas Golden Axe sort of belongs to the other one. But we'll see. Yeah. You know, I won't judge that too hard.
Yeah.
So, but Golden Axe isn't next. So, in fact, next, do you even remember what we're doing next? Because we've got a lot of stuff on our list where we're going next.
I do remember what we're doing next, because I've written it down here so that I didn't forget.
I was going to say that sounded like such a diss. Hello, do you remember what's coming next? Do you know what day it is? Have you had your lunch? Anyway, old dude.
Well, they're different questions that I haven't written down the answers to, so don't throw me under the bus, do that. But let me say what it is before I lose my page or forget what it is. So we are going for Jet Set Radio Future, which is the Xbox game. So I believe, was it initially planned on the Dreamcast and then moved over when Sega kind of cancelled their hardware aspirations or something?
You know, I want to say yes.
It was definitely in that batch of games.
By the time we do the video, I will know the answer.
We will find out. Yes. But yes, no, it was on the Xbox shortly after the cancellation of the Dreamcast when they were moving projects over.
I mean, we've always talked about it as part of that batch of games. You know, Xbox being like Dreamcast 2, you know, there's the spiritual successor and all of that stuff. It's, you know, it's in that batch. Like whether it was in development before they ported it, we'll fact check that bad boy. But you know, we'd always talk about it in that breath, and I'm seriously excited because, you know, obviously it's only last year I got my own Xbox. So like back in the day, my brother had one. We played a few titles, but there are so many I didn't have or didn't play. And so, you know, with your assistance, we've filled in quite the library on the Xbox now. And this needs a proper play because it's been mostly sat in the cupboard that whole time, and it needs it needs a proper airing. So I'm very glad to be getting it out.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to playing it. This is going to be great. Yeah.
Is this the first time we've gone off a Sega consoles?
You're right. Yeah. We haven't ventured outside of the realm of Sega hardware yet. So this is going to be a first. Interesting.
Although, you know, like what we were saying, it still feels very Sega territory because the Xbox.
It really does.
You know, it feels. A lot of people talk about it, but we felt the same. There's so
the
much.
pad kind of felt like a real nod to the Dreamcast pad and things.
There's so much Sega on it, so that's a beautiful next game, and I'm like very excited to play it. So, yeah, have we missed anything on Streets of Rage? I think we've kind of done it a good service. Great game.
Yeah. I mean, 2 thumbs up. It's quality. Give it a play if you haven't, and if you haven't, like, well, there ain't going to be anyone who hasn't played Streets of Rage, so let's be honest. So. Yeah, but no, top stuff.
Yeah, so I think that brings us to the end. Now it's a new year. It's it's a fresh start. Are you still going to be ditching on me at the end of these videos, like piling out?
Come on, man! I got places to be. I got things to do. So, with all this being said, well, this has been great.
Just hours.